Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining, the interwebs daytime edition. How's it going? I hope everybody out there is having a good day. So, what is this? Oh, that's nice. We got a nice little string there. That was good. Woo-wee. So, I'm toying with some different things, and I wanted to do a little bit of a daytime stream to catch up on some topics here. I'm trying that out rather than recording individual videos today because, hey, it's Wednesday, right? Is it Wednesday? I think that's what it is. Is today Wednesday? I literally don't even know what day it is. Wednesday. So since it's Wednesday, maybe we should do something slightly different. Still no haircut. No, I haven't been to town to get a haircut. Believe me, I want one. Are daytime streams different from nighttime streams? Yes, they are typically shorter. They're typically shorter. And Agrilith, I have not uploaded the stream from last night because I was letting the previous night's stream upload. But when this stream is done, I'll be uploading last night's stream to the archive channel. So that is where that is right now. But thank you for asking. Are we allowed to drink during the day? Well, that's between you and your AA counselor. Try out that YouTube segment feature you were talking about. I have to set that up in advance. I'm going to see if I can set that up sometime this week, maybe. But to do that, I have to set up and schedule out a bunch of live streams in a row so that I have the URLs to transfer into the next one. You have to set them up in reverse order, which is cool, I guess. It's kind of weird. It's a weird thing. But yeah, it's something I want to try for sure. What they're talking about is there's a feature of YouTube live streams. There's a feature of YouTube live streams where you can end the live stream and redirect the audience automatically to a live stream or a premiere video of your choice, which is a really cool thing. And I don't know that many people know about it. Maybe actually, I'm lying. Maybe everybody knows about it but me, which is very, very possible. So that is a real thing. That's good. That's good. Maybe everybody else knows about it. Maybe I don't. I don't know. But I heard about it and then looked into it, and it seems relatively straightforward to set up. So it's kind of cool. Nate the lawyer knows. Well, he knows everything. Okay, let's see. I don't know how many times I've been watching a video and afterwards it sends me to that Jordan Peterson interview. That's a little bit different. That's how that's the algorithmic, just sort of a video ends and then another video queues up that YouTube thinks you want to do because you have autoplay on. But there's actually a feature to it's just for like live content. So live streaming and premieres where you choose the creator chooses where it goes. And so I think where it's mostly used is for people to have a premiered video starting, like maybe a music video that they've been working on or something like that. And then what they do is they have their live stream beforehand, get people in, get people hyped up, and then redirect to the premiere at the start time. And that then brings that audience over into the premiere for the opening. I think that's what it's for, or what it's primarily used for. But what I wanted to try was doing multiple segments of a live stream and bounce people from stream to stream and see how horrifically unsmooth that transition is. I'm guessing it's going to be a disaster. I'm guessing. Look, I'm behind it. It's going to be absolutely awful. Awful stuff. But we'll try it. We'll try it. So we got a couple chats here. Jamie Moodley says, please pray for us in South Africa. It's bad here. Dude, it is terrible what's going on. We were looking at some of the news yesterday, watching or reading about the looting that's going on. The death toll is rising. Everything seems to be in shambles. So I'm hoping everything works out for you guys okay. And that is definitely something that we should all be concerned with, because it seems like people are unhappy. Well, and since they've arrested, like 1,000 people and now the jails are full, I guess what do? Right? I know some people with a trip planned to South Africa later this year. So I'm hoping not, obviously they're going to be safe because they just won't go if it's still in turmoil. But I'm hoping for a swift resolution, not because of their trip, but because of the human toll that it's taken over there, man. Not good. Not good. Figbat says, just dropping my retainer. Whiskey review Glenn Farkless. 105 cask strength single malt whiskey, bold character, and highly recommended. I've seen a Glenn Farkless around. I don't know if it was at one of my stores or if it was at a bar that I was at somewhere. It's not. If it was at a bar, it definitely wasn't in my town. But I'll keep my eyes open for it, buddy. Where I live, the whiskey selection is weak. But when I go into a bigger city, sometimes there's some good solutions, or some good selection, I should say. The Gentleman Sausage says, the U-Gouge is life-changing. I had it yesterday, today, and today. I'm a new man, and my sandwiches will never be the same as they once were. Wait a minute. Did you go into a Subway and demand the U-Gouge? Did that happen? Tell me that happened. I need to know if that happened. Wait, is Ralph fighting for custody? Is that happening? Is that a real thing, or is that a meme? Oh, you made your own. Okay, yeah, that works. Because I was gonna say, I don't think that the whatchamacallit, Subways will actually do the U-Gouge anymore. Like, if you go in there and tell them to, they'll say no, bigot, and they'll tell you to stop or whatever. Let's see. So Ralph is actually fighting for custody. Okay. Someone asked if I would be his lawyer for that. No. No, I don't like to do family law cases in general, also way out of my jurisdiction. So no. But I mean, if he wants to do that, best of luck to him. He's going to have a, how do I word this? It's going to be an uphill battle. And it doesn't have much to do with the reality of Ralph versus the reality of Faith. It has everything to do with the fact that he's got a show. That show has had major articles written about it and stuff like that. And it's going to be similar, I think, to what happened with Alex Jones. I mean, at least if I was the mom's lawyer, that's what I would do, is make it into an Alex Jones style case. where you bring up the online persona that is Ralph, and then you use that as a giant sledgehammer against him. So I'm not sure what he's looking to pursue. He's in what, Virginia? And isn't she in California? Because if she's in California, he's going to have to fight it there, especially if the baby's there. Just a mini F. Just a mini F. We're good. Yeah. So anyway, that's fighting that in California with a resident mother trying to get custody across the country. That's going to be tough. We'll see. We'll see. Oh yeah, I mentioned Alex Jones and then we got the buffering. That's good. Thank you. Best of luck to him. Best of luck to him. I'm not sure what case he's going to bring against Faith. That's the ultimate question, is what case do you bring there? Ollie says, I have watched you since you covered quartering assault, and I think this is maybe the third time I've been able to catch you live. Good stuff. Living in Ireland. Hey, shout out to Ireland. Thanks, buddy. I might be doing more daytime shows soon, either here or on Twitch. Live shows. So you stay tuned. I'm trying to work some things out with that. Raj H, welcome to Paralegal Status. And Faustus says, Nick, thank you for what you do by helping me stay sane during my 14 to 15 hour work days these past 2 weeks. I'm a merchandise financial planner. So staring at Excel gets mind-numbingly boring. Oh my gosh, I couldn't do it. Okay. Oh, we've got F. Bokadal says, Sargon of Akkad is a slippery slope towards degeneracy. Been consuming most of your content since during work. Yes, it is. Sargon will bring you, like, it's Sargon, and then suddenly you're dressing up as anime characters and running around neighborhoods. Not good. But I like Sargon. I haven't talked to him in a while. I need to chat with him. I need to play some Mountain Blade with him and Arch sometime. That would be fun. Masco Weiss is not stream related, but how is civil asset forfeiture allowed? From what I've seen, it's just legally allowed stealing by the police if abused. Yep. No, you nailed it. There's nothing else to really say. But yeah, it's legally allowed stealing on the suspicion of a criminal charge. And a lot of stuff, if it's under like $1,000, doesn't get returned. So it's literal shakedowns happening, where a police officer just has suspicion that someone has marijuana or drugs or whatever. They open the wallet. There's $150 in it. That's done. It's awful. And how do you fight it back? How do you fight it? I mean, at certain amounts, they have to, they report it, they bring it in, but there's not much you can do. How do you prove you had cash on you? Okay, and then finally, Eric the Red. Welcome to Paralegal Status. Okay, so what we're here for. I was trying to catch up on some news. Yeah, Ninja Bread Man, Minnesota did just pass they're either just pass it or they're trying to pass it, limiting civil asset forfeiture, which is good. It's a good law. Walter T. Baggins says, tell us about your wife's infidelity. I'm not sure my wife has ever been unfaithful to me, so weird. It's almost like some people might lie about things, but that's okay. So here we go. I was looking through the news that I've missed because I've missed days of news by being at a degeneracy convention, which was Anime Matsuri down in Houston. And at Anime Matsuri, I wasn't following the news because I was hanging out at the con. And so we've got some news coming out with James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. So I wanted to talk about that. There's a thing I covered yesterday that I want to maybe get into a little more today, and that is the huge news that the Fourth Circuit has struck down the ban on the sale of handguns to people between the ages of 18 and 21. So if you're 18, 19, or 20 in the United States, you're not allowed to buy a handgun from a licensed federal firearms dealer. You could buy one from a private party, but not from an FFL, that's pretty crazy to think of, because you don't have a right. It's a right that's written down in the Constitution, that's given to you, or recognized, I should say. It's given to you by your creator, but it's inherent in you. But the Constitution is recognizing that right. It's what's called an enumerated right. It's got a number. It's got its own text listed there in the document, like speech, like religion, like press, like your right to an attorney, like your right from to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. Somebody was like, you know what? There's a lot of rights here, but we're going to write some of these down because we really want to focus on them. And the right to keep and bear arms is one of those. And so it's there. It's laid out for all to see. And yet still, the government has restricted it over and over. But basically all rights in the Constitution vest by the time you're 18. That means that when you turn 18, you have the full slate of rights. And it's kind of a logical trade-off I don't necessarily agree with it, but some rights get abdicated in the interest of parenting and child rearing. So the idea that you don't get to vote until you're 18 is because you're really not generally independent until then. And so since you're under someone's roof and you are a dependent upon them and all of the things that means, both legally and financially, you're not in charge of your own decision making. You're not in charge of your own medical choices to a large extent, although they're peeling that back. So they say, okay, well, this person doesn't get a say in representative society until they're actually somewhat independent, until they have the right to make their own legal and medical decisions. We're going to just go ahead and not have the voting right. So that's kind of the logical idea of a trade-off. And I guess similarly, the logical idea would be that if you're under 18, you're in someone else's household and they would presumably be the custodian of your self-defense at that point in time. It's their job to keep you safe. But once you're 18 and you're independent, you're making your own choices. Again, they've never met NEETs or whatever, I guess. So they don't have like the 28-year-old still living at home type situation where someone is still dependent, that, you know, still on their parents' health insurance or whatever, because that's the thing now. When I think it's up to 27 due to Obamacare, you get to say on your parents' insurance. So they don't have that anymore, or they don't consider that when they're talking about this sort of forfeiture of rights because you're not of age. So that being said, Magnus says, Nick, live chat Wednesday. Yep, we're going to get done with this stream by 3 and go straight into live chat Wednesday. Don't worry. That's happening. That's happening. So anyway, the idea is that your rights are vested by the time you're 18, except for guns. But there's nothing anywhere that says except for guns. They just decided except for guns, which I don't know how. I don't know how we can just choose that, especially when it's written down. Is the router mine? I haven't seen any streaming problems. Oh, I lowered the bitrate for Twitch. I wonder if that's I wonder if that's messing with things. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So we're going to talk about the 18-year-old handgun ban being overturned by the Fourth Circuit and what that means in a little bit. And then finally, Chuck Schumer, I can't believe I'm saying this. Chuck Schumer is proposing a bill that I think might actually be good. We'll have to see the text. I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall on this one because Chuck Schumer is proposing a bill to legalize marijuana at the federal level, which is it needs to happen. That's something that definitely needs to happen. But be prepared, because if they federally legalize marijuana, they will federally tax the sale of marijuana along with whatever tax your state wants to put on it, and the price is going to go up significantly, but the risk will go down significantly as well. Awig, you said you saw decriminalize. I did too in the headline, but they're talking about removing it from the Controlled Substances Act, which would effectively make it legal unless they change the scheduling. So we'll have to see what they actually do. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about what language is in the bill. News outlets don't seem to know the difference between decriminalization and legalization. There's a huge difference. There's a vast gulf between those two things. One of them is legal. One of them is decriminalized, which means there's still some sort of restriction on it that can lead to criminal activity. As weird as it sounds for them to say decriminalize, Minnesota, for example, has decriminalized marijuana, which means that anything less than 44.5 grams, 42.5 is 42.5 grams, is considered non-criminal, but it's still not lawful to own. So they can remove it from your person, and they can give you a small civil fine. They can't put you in jail for it. But if you have over 42.5 grams, then it's a felony. And having less than that, like, so if you have a joint on you, right, you're smoking a joint, cop walks by, smells it, he can actually try and find out. He can use that as probable cause that you may have more on you. Even though it's decriminalized, it leads to a search of you and the sufficient probable cause to affect a temporary seizure. So I'm not a big fan of decriminalization, and I'm really concerned about what language is going to be in there. And since Chuck Schumer is on it, I very suspicious. But we'll see what happens with that. Kate 4394 says, "Wish me luck. I'm on my lunch. My cuck boss that I reported 2 weeks ago for throwing me out of a meeting for doodling is here today." Yay me. Wait, so your boss is doodling in... threw you out of a meeting because you were doodling during the meeting? What is he? Is he bigoted against people with, various sorts of learning styles? Like for me, my hands have to be doing something while I'm learning. I can't do anything other than that. Like I have to draw or flip through a book or something. My hands have to be occupied. Otherwise, I'll get fidgety and I won't be able to concentrate. So I have to have something to distract what I'm doing so I can continue listening. JXXXMXXX says, "Do an impression of Legal Eagles Drexel." What is Legal Eagles Drexel? I don't even know what that is. Breck says, "My uncle got life for a roach that was not his because of the third strike law." That's insane. That's insane. Mithrin Emmer says, "Nick is reminded of a time deadline. Confidently states that's happening, impliedly on time. Going to have to X to doubt that, mate." Listen. Let's get into this. Okay. If the court gave children under 18 the right to accept a vaccine without parental consent, by doing that, did they also grant the right for a child to decline the vaccine without a parent? That's a good question. You'd have to almost suggest yes. Like, you can't have one thing be true and the complementary alternative not be true. I mean, you can. We do it all the time, but you're not supposed to. Okay, so this is from a couple days ago. January 6th, James O'Keefe versus Twitter, a legal victory that happened. And this is pretty important. James O'Keefe is suing Twitter for defamation because Twitter removed James O'Keefe's account, banned him, suspended him from Twitter forever. Twitter suspensions equal bans. You're gone. They keep your account there, but they never let you back on, which is great. Thanks. But since they did this, and then they said it was because he was operating false accounts. So he is suing them for defamation. Says, I was not operating any fake accounts. What are you talking about? Why are you telling people that I'm doing this? That's not the correct sort of thing. And if we've been through this case, the complaint, and the idea is that Twitter had press releases out about the false accounts. Some agent of Twitter informed members of the media that this happened. Members of the media then ran the story within, I think before James O'Keefe was even notified himself of the ban, the story was already hot off the press, and they were saying that it was the fake accounts that were the cause for the ban. And then that story was disseminated out and out and out. So James O'Keefe says that he is a journalist, a citizen journalist, and has his reputation and his credibility are the tools of his trade, and to have those impugned by the court or by Twitter is damaging to him and his brand, which is true, which is a very true thing. So with that, he's suing for defamation, and he is suing in New York State Court, where they are currently also pounding on the New York Times. Now, what Twitter was trying to do is remove this case to federal court. They want it out of the state court and into federal court, and then likely they would try to transfer away from New York and over to California or something like that once they got out of the state courts in New York. And there's a whole thing about diversity jurisdiction here, but typically, if you can bring a claim into state court and the claim is under $75,000, then it belongs in state court. It does not belong in federal court, and because you don't meet the federal diversity jurisdiction requirements. If you have a diversity claim where you have complete diversity of the two parties, or of the plaintiffs versus the defendants, I should say, you have complete diversity, and the claim is over $75,000, it doesn't belong in state court. At that point, it belongs in federal court. So if you're trying to keep something in state court, you need to make sure one of two things is true. Either diversity jurisdiction is defeated because you don't have complete diversity, which means you are domiciled in the same state as the defendant, any one of the defendants, and any one of the plaintiffs, or you have a controversy under $75,000. So what James O'Keefe did here is they did not claim a monetary damage amount. They did not claim more than $75,000 in damages. And that's typically up to the plaintiff to indicate the level of damage that they estimate will come from this. And on one hand, I agree with them. I agree that Twitter saying that James O'Keefe has less than, or has been operating multiple accounts, right? That doesn't seem like a massive amount of fiscal damage happening to Project Veritas. And interestingly, I think they'd be able to show that there's probably not monetary loss, but from the time that his Twitter was deleted versus the lawsuit being brought, they can probably demonstrate either consistent revenue or an increase in revenue or whatever. It would be hard to demonstrate a substantial loss, especially to James O'Keefe personally, because of it. He would have to point to something else happening. But it's much easier to point to a loss of reputation because you have news articles talking badly about James O'Keefe and that he was doing this thing, and fraud and misrepresentation, especially in the field of journalism, is like a de facto sort of disparagement. It's not a good look. And so that's a pretty easy thing to show that he has reputational damages and having declaratory relief, where the court says this was wrong. You did a bad thing here. There's nominal damages, but you hurt someone's reputation, and the court is going on record to say that we have found these claims to be false. We've gone through it. And now James may get a retraction or whatever, but either way, he's going to get the positive press about what's happening. So there's a way for the court to remedy this with less than $75,000. That's the trick. If you're trying to defeat diversity jurisdiction, you got to do exactly what James O'Keefe is doing. And he is signaling how to fight these things. And that is one of the most important things. And I'm poaching this from Robert Barnes a little bit on the Barnes and Viva stream where they discuss this. But signaling to other people where to go ahead and attack these companies and how to do it. I say I'm poaching this from Barnes, but let's be very clear. I've talked about this long before that stream, and Barnes probably learned it from me, if we're being honest. But we need people to forge the legal paths on this stuff. So little victories here and there, even little losses here and there on some of these major issues are really, really useful because they indicate legal strategies going forward. Can we attempt to do this? Can we move forward in this way? No, we can't. We get shut down in federal court. How about we try state court? I think I talked about this during the election lawsuits, because there were election lawsuits being brought in all different jurisdictions at all different levels with all different theories. And they were trying to, as quickly as they could, discern what strategies were going to work. And that's a massive part of this stuff, especially when you're forging relatively new territory. And this is new territory. Suing mega social media companies over their suspensions and over their messaging about suspensions, especially over their messaging about suspensions of semi-public or public figures, is new ground. 230 has foreclosed a lot of the attacks on these social media companies. It has chilled the right of people to bring lawsuits that would otherwise have succeeded because they're afraid of what happens if they get dismissed under 230. It's cost prohibitive. Plus, the ones that have been brought may have been improperly removed by a judge. So all of that to say, all of these legal victories, big and small, all of these legal losses, big and small, help sculpt the method for doing this. And this is how several other areas of jurisprudence have developed in the common law. I mean, products liability didn't exist in the 1500s in English common law. It wasn't like, well, this manufacturer did this thing and everybody should have known that sword was going to stab the wielder in the eye. That wasn't a products liability case that existed. They had to be prodded and poked and tested to see if you could actually find a way to hold the manufacturer liable for something when there didn't seem to be anyone else at fault. So that's how this stuff happens. And it's very, very important. We've got a couple chats here, and then we're going to look into these bullet points that they've got on the website. The denialist says, doesn't Twitter saying it would be more than 75,000 basically say they did it? Or am I just stupid? No, in a lawsuit, you get to argue in the alternative or in the hypothetical. You said, for the sake of argument, we'll accept that we're guilty. And if we are guilty, it'll be more than $75,000. We're going to get there. But no, that's not actually an admission. That's just saying if the plaintiff were to prevail. So what they're trying to say is the plaintiff is hiding the ball on how much this damage actually is. But I don't know that their assessment is true and correct. Mr. Bentham says, whoa, midday stream. Nice. Just got here. Also, could you read Trump poems during streams? They're hilarious. Yeah, I'll probably do those during the nighttime streams. Real quick, Adam K says, why is there a limit to $75,000 in damages in a state lawsuit? Why does it go to Fed if it's over? That doesn't make any sense. No, it's two parts. Federal diversity jurisdiction requires both a complete diversity of parties and over $75,000 in damages. So that means if you've got residents of two different states in a lawsuit against each other with an amount over $75,000. And the reason is the idea is that a federal court is more neutral than a state court when you've got parties from two different states. This is rooted. You got to remember when our legal system was developed and when the Constitution was written, particularly Article 3, which lays out these jurisdictional issues. But when this was written, state loyalty was something that was vastly different than it is now. Like every person you're annoyed to meet because they tell you about how cool Texas is and they're from Texas, like me, for example, because they have a loyalty to Texas. Texas has developed a culture of state pride. Everybody that you've met like that, that's how basically everybody was back in at the founding, right? A nationalist in Maine during the founding was actually a Maine nationalist. Maine was the sovereign that they were allied to, that they had given to, that their family lived in, that they were planning to live in forever. Like the state loyalty was something wildly different. There wasn't as much mobility. It wasn't as easy to change. It's kind of like how people used to work at the same factory for 30 years. And now like millennials move jobs on average, even switch companies on average, like every 2 to 3 years, because the ability to have lateral mobility has changed dramatically. And that is something that we saw with states. And so it's interesting to contextualize things like these court reasonings that exist. It's because they were worried that if someone from New York drugged someone from, I guess at the time, Pennsylvania, into New York court for a lawsuit, and it was $20 at the time, it's $75,000 now, but with a controversy for, let's say, $100 in 1790 was a lot of money. So let's do 1792, the year after the Constitution's ratified. So someone from New York drags someone from Pennsylvania into New York courts for $100 in 1792. They were worried that the New York court was going to automatically favor the New York resident over the Pennsylvania resident. And that sort of fear has persisted through today. So that's why this sort of thing has developed in the way that it has. It's based on these older concepts of state loyalty and the states being loyal to their citizens. Does anybody in the audience think their state is loyal to them anymore? I don't, but we still have this holdover artifact. All right, back to this. So Project Veritas founder and CEO James O'Keefe just won his first major legal victory. Hold on, I'm moving this over to my screen so I can read it easier. My main screen. Read it without staring off into space. Woo! Okay. A Manhattan federal court ruled to remand or allow the case to be brought back down from federal to state level. So when you file a removal action in state court, and this is what happened. James O'Keefe files a case in state court. Twitter removes it to federal court. They say, nope, we've got federal diversity and over 75K in controversy. Then you go back to the federal court and argue that it should be brought back down to the state court level. So that's the procedure that happened here. And so the Manhattan federal court said, nope, this doesn't belong here. It's remanded back to the state court. Twitter's presumed objective was to transfer the case to federal level so they could litigate in a friendly California court instead of the New York State Supreme Court. California federal courts routinely dismiss cases against big tech companies. Yes, that's true. We don't know if that was their motivation, but probably. They were going to argue that the venue states this, their terms of service say that you have to bring it in federal court in California, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Twitter attorney Amer Ahmed argued that O'Keefe would seek over $75,000 in damages to punish the big tech companies for defamation, suggesting this is the reason for the case to be elevated to the federal level. The problem is James O'Keefe didn't do that. So they're saying what James O'Keefe would have done, but they didn't. They didn't do that. And plaintiffs get to make that decision. Plaintiffs get to say, well, I was only damaged $50,000. So, and then typically when you come down to judgment time, if you win, the judge is going to say, wait, you said you were only damaged $50,000 outside of some subsequent sort of thing coming in that was not foreseeable. Like you find out about some extra damage or something during the course of the case. Really, really rare. But typically the judge is going to say, you said $50,000 of damages. That's what you're going to get. You don't get to suddenly claim, no, well, I said 50,000, but it's actually 12 million. Nope, doesn't work that way. O'Keefe is suing Twitter and intends to depose their executives to discover why big tech companies permanently suspended his account and defamed him. He was permanently suspended from Twitter in April 2021 after launching the explosive exposed CNN videos, where CNN technical director Charlie Chester admitted his network promotes propaganda and a political agenda. And Twitter's reasoning for the permanent suspension was that O'Keefe operated fake accounts, and that allegation is false and defamatory. So they're going to go back to New York State Court. So what comes next? Next will be the inevitable anti-SLAPP motion in New York State Court. New York State has a recently refined anti-SLAPP statute that they had an anti-SLAPP before. It was super weak. They've strengthened it. But Veritas already has experience fighting against that, as they overcame it in their fight against the New York Times. So that is something that they'll be able to potentially use their previous experience to go ahead and hopefully defeat that. The goal in these things is discovery. Right now, against a big tech monolith, a giant judgment amount doesn't hurt a monolithic tech company. Like what? You're not going to win $8 billion from Twitter and put them into actual financial peril. You may win $100 million from Twitter, and Twitter would presumably be able to go ahead and get that paid out. Like they don't want to take that kind of hit, but they're not going to die from it. You can't strike at them financially. They're massive, massive companies, and massive companies like these pay big fines and big fees and big payouts on lawsuits all the time. It's a budget item for them. So the important thing is discovery. That's how you strike out at this. You find out through discovery with depositions. You get these people on record saying that there is some sort of movement against there is some sort of movement against conservatives, for example, that they want to take care of. They want to go ahead and expose that. And that's how you do it. Discovery is the way. And these big companies we've seen, they don't want to deal with discovery. That's why those companies were settling with Nick Sandmann, even though they were looking like they were going to win those cases, and actually had one at the lower court level. They got tuned back a little bit from the federal courts, but likely were going to be able to prevail in the lower courts. But just having those three statements to be reviewed in the Sandmann case was enough for them to settle. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to deal with this. We don't want to deal with this at all, because if discovery comes out and there's a bunch of emails saying that little smug white boy is terrible or whatever, that looks really bad for Washington. Wait, was it CNN? Washington Post, I think, was one of the other ones. They don't want that type of stuff happening. And Twitter certainly doesn't want discovery with O'Keefe here. The problem that Twitter has is O'Keefe has said, we're not settling. We're going for the throat on this. Stephen F. says, apparently O'Keefe has already been deposing New York Times. Would have set plush chairs on my side, fold up chairs for theirs, catered food on my side, Gatorade jug, and paper cups for theirs. Yeah, we'll see. I can't wait for them to release those. All right, I have one more quick Veritas hit to do, because this one's just because I think it's funny. Dark Lurker Kaiser says, anyone know if memology is good? It's only been 2 days since the video, but still. He was in Ethan Van Sciver's chat yesterday. While I was on the show, he popped in and said something. So as of yesterday, he was still alive or whatever. Okay, let's do this one. So Democrats are mad about this. Roger Rousdower says Trump recently filed a class action lawsuit against big tech. Yeah, I reported on it when it first happened. I hadn't read the lawsuit yet. It's looking like I've got to go through it and probably do a more in-depth analysis, but it's looking like it's a stinker. So we'll have to see. All right, check this out, guys. Russia-born survivor contestant 32 worked for Project Veritas as a honeypot to lure Democrats into conversations she secretly recorded. Let's take a look at her. Uh-oh. They found a mama. They found a mama to honeypot this weirdo. Where is she? There she is again. I thought they had more pictures of her. There she is again. We'll take a look at the story in a second. Whoops. Okay, so Russia-born survivor contestant, worked as a honeypot. Hope Higgins, whose real name is Anna Kite, has been working for Project Veritas, a right-wing activist group known to produce video via secret recording. I really don't think that Project Veritas is right-wing. I really don't think that that's true. Project Veritas seems to be anti-organization and anti-conglomeration, and they typically right now are going after left-leaning places, but that's because that's where the juice is. Kate managed to lure former Democratic campaign worker Michael Kolink. Kolink spoke disparagingly about his former boss, Oregon Governor Kate Brown. Kate, I don't know Russian. Who is a former contestant on Survivor, managed to score time with Kolink by treating him as a possibly love interest. Nice typo there from Daily Mail. She also managed to surreptitiously record West Virginia Teachers Union member Jay O'Neill for another conservative group, Accuracy in Media. By the time she targeted a Texas school union still using the Hope Higgins alias, members were wise to her tactics and denied her request to meet up. So here's what So she's apparently, sends him a picture. It says, hey girl, what you doing? To the Democrat men. That's why I'm calling him hey girl. She says that, and they're like, hey, yeah. Oh, I'll meet up for a business lunch. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. And then they get mad. They get mad when she records their conversations of what they actually believe. And whoops. That's, here he is. She's got him. Larceny. Good job. Good stuff. So there you go. That's what Hope Higgins here has been doing. I think it's good stuff. Look, that's just a funny one to me. That's just a funny little story that I wanted to share because, yeah. They do this, right? It was funny when Sacha Baron Cohen did that to Rudy Giuliani, right? Allegedly, Rudy was interested in the very young intern or whatever, according to Sacha Baron Cohen. But they're all for it. Then they love it. They love it until it comes home. Until it comes home. And then, oh, wait, no. This is not okay. That's a honeypot. That's not fair. That's not fair. You can't wave those things around in my face and then record me when I say bad things about people. You can't do that. You can't do that. Yeah, she's a former professional poker player. Or still, maybe, I don't know if she still is. But yeah, they're mad about it. Are you dealing with drinking 5 times a week, even if it's just one shot sometimes? Doesn't your liver need a rest? Keep in mind, I'm Irish and asking this. I asked my doctor the same thing, and they checked my liver, and it was good back then. I don't know. I'm due for another appointment. We'll find out. All right, let's get to the next story here because I got to keep this thing moving. Like I said, we're doing about an hour-long stream here to get, because I have live chat Wednesday today. If you are a member of my locals, or if you are a high enough subscriber on the YouTube membership, you can have access to the Discord, the exclusive Discord, and that is something that's available. And we do live chats most Wednesdays when I'm not dying at around 3 p.m. Central Time, and so that's trying to move through this so we can get to, or so I can get to that. Why are we doing a midday stream? Well, I thought about recording a bunch of streams or recording a bunch of short videos. And then I thought, why don't I just stream? Because sometimes people like that live flavor, but they don't get to be at the nighttime show. Is this going to be a thing from now on? Maybe. I might start doing them over on Twitch, though. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. Johnny Stoffel says, if she's sweaty and luring, do we call it a salt lick? Yes. Yes, you do. I am not due for a 1K shot, Agrilith. There are only 564 likes. I also tend to not drink during the day because I might have to drive somewhere. Okay, so CNN Politics says handgun sale ban to under 21-year-olds is unconstitutional. I covered this on last night's live stream, but I want to cover it again because it's so good. Actually, you know what let's do this. Let's do this. Oh man, Mike Tyson. Is this the here we go. Well, we can read this whole opinion. It's 141 pages. Let's get a synopsis. $141 pages? Oh my God. Let's try and get some quick hits from it. Them's a lot of pages. Genshiken says, I was a paid member for your channel on YouTube, but could never get the info for your Discord for several months, so I canceled my subscription. Sorry about that, buddy. There's a YouTube community post for the top level subscribers on there on how to get in there. But if you weren't able to get in, I apologize. Again, I would strongly recommend locals as the chosen way to do it. But if you want to go back through YouTube and message me, I'll get you the information. But sorry, I didn't know you were having that trouble. Were there any kick Vicks at Anime Matsuri? I mean, I don't think so. Maybe there were, but they typically don't pay for Matsuri because they also hate Matsuri. All right, let's take a quick look at this. Here's his introduction. When do constitutional rights vest? This is what we were talking about earlier. At 18 or 21, 16 or 25, why not 13 or 33? In the law, a line must sometimes be drawn, but there must be a reason why constitutional rights cannot be enjoyed until a certain age. Our nation's most cherished constitutional rights vest no later than 18. And the Second Amendment's right to keep and bear arms is no different. Now, some people have mentioned alcohol and tobacco. Those are not enumerated rights in the Constitution. They're not there. They're sort of just generally assumed to be your freedom to consume something. But if it's not an enumerated right, then you have to kind of balance out where it begins. Congress has decided to regulate the sale of these products to 18 years, or I think it's 21 years old now for both tobacco and alcohol. They've decided that based on medical research that says that they're bad for someone under the age of 21. Of course, that research just seems to always coincide with exactly where Congress wants to make the age. All right? That's just how they do it. But since you don't have an enumerated right to alcohol consumption or tobacco consumption, there's not much you can do about it. Congress has the power to regulate under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. But they should be attacked on equal protection grounds. I think ultimately they'll lose because I'm pretty sure they've tried that. But anyway, let's keep going. The Second Amendment's right to keep and bear arms is no different. Plaintiffs seek an injunction and a declaratory judgment that several federal laws and regulations that prevent federally licensed gun dealers from selling handguns to any 18, 19, or 20-year-olds violate the Second Amendment. We first handle that 18-year-olds possess Second Amendment rights. They enjoy almost every other constitutional right, and they were required at the time of the founding to serve in the militia and furnish their own weapons. We then ask, as our precedent requires, whether the government has met its burden to justify its infringement of those rights under the appropriate level of scrutiny. To justify this restriction, Congress used disproportionate crime rates to craft over-inclusive laws that restrict the rights of overwhelmingly law-abiding citizens, and in doing so, Congress focused on purchases from licensed dealers without establishing those dealers as the source of the guns of 18 to 21-year-olds to use to commit crimes. So what they did here, Congress gets to justify its actions during the legislative session when they're debating, how they're going to do this. They provide their rationale for a law, and that helps courts determine whether their rationale is sufficient. In this case, Congress used crime statistics. FBI crime statistics largely skew that the 18 to 20, 14 to 24, whatever, the younger age demographics are disproportionately high crime demographics. And you know why this is, right? Because the overwhelming majority, particularly of gun violence, is gang and drug related. It just is. There's nothing else to say about it. If you hear anything else about gun and gun violence and violent crime in general, hearing, oh, America's so bad because of all the violent crime. Literally, if you're not in a gang and involved in gang and drug sort of transactions and interactions, you're in one of the safest countries in the world. But if you include gang and drug violence, and that drug violence is brought upon by government intervention, as it almost always is. But if you include that stuff, America suddenly goes way down the list of safe countries. But most people in America, the overwhelming majority of people in America, are not there. They're not in there. So, what Congress did, though, was they took the blank demographic crime assessment and said, young people are more likely to commit gun crime than older people. And so, therefore, we must limit the legal purchases of handguns to younger people. Because that, and of course, did that work? No, it didn't work. And one of the reasons it didn't work is because the 16-year-old Crip who's walking around with a 9mm handgun didn't go to a federal firearms licensed dealer and go, hey, yo, what up, thug? I need me a piece. Or whatever the Crip kids say these days, those wacky gangsters. They didn't do that. They got the gun illegally. They got it from someone that was, it was either stolen, it was sold illegally, something like that. Shockingly, criminals don't tend to follow the law when they're criminals. It's weird. So, that whole culture, that culture of violence and criminality that comes out of particular socioeconomic statuses, that comes out of primarily gang and drug affiliated transactions. These sorts of things were used to justify a ban on everybody. And the judge is saying that's not sufficient. And it's basically the idea of constitutional overbreadth. Is this law accomplishing what the government wants it to accomplish? And is it doing it in a way that is not overly restrictive on other lawful activity? This judge says no. No, it's sweeping up tons of lawful activity. If there are 300 million guns in the United States, for example, and 8,000 gun homicides in the United States, 300 million versus 8,000 is a big difference. And so we're sweeping up all of the guns that were not used to murder people and all of those gun owners who did not shoot at anybody. We're going to say all of those people are similarly bad because of a tiny, tiny amount of gun virus. The 8,000 gun homicides a year, let's say it's even 10,000. That's barely a New York nursing home when COVID hits, right? Like, that's nothing. When you really think about the amount of guns that are out there, the amount of gun violence they talk about, and of course, no one should be shot and killed by a gun unless they're a dirtbag who deserves it because they're putting someone in direct harm. No one deserves to be murdered by a gun. Overwhelmingly, the amount of murders by gun are really, really small. Really, really small. And it's not because of legislation like this. All right, so, and in doing so, Congress focused on the purchases from licensed dealers without establishing, like I said, they didn't go through and find out that, all these murders are being committed with legally purchased guns. They didn't do that. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. We don't know. They didn't do a gun trace on all those guns, which they can do really quickly and actually do those traces every time a crime is committed. Someone could go through and compile that data. Like some researcher could go through, they could request all of the gun traces on confiscated guns that have been done. And they could say, was this the original owner? Was this a different owner? Was this gun reported stolen? They could do that. They could do that research project, but I'm not aware of it happening. And if it did happen, Congress didn't use it. So we hold that the challenged federal laws and regulations are unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. Despite the weighty interest in reducing crime and violence, we refuse to relegate either the Second Amendment or 18 to 20-year-olds to a second-class status, which is fantastic. But I just wanted to say a little bit more about this. We don't have time to go through the whole thing. I got about 10 minutes left, and I want to hit the weed issue next. So we're going to jump into that one. But the point in all of this is that we have, again, a culture of violence. A culture of violence that is detached from the average American's reality. The average American is not going through this. The average American is not experiencing a plethora of gun crime. Average American who is 18 to 20 years old, who wants to buy a handgun, is not doing so to go murder someone. It's not even close. Apparently, Memology posted a new video 10 minutes ago. Good. Yeah, I said he was in Ethan Van Sciver's chat yesterday, so I figured he was fine, but probably just busy. All right, so here we go. This is the last topic of the day. Let's see, we got a couple more chats to go through. Richard Pierce sent a lemon dancing. Thank you. Amazing Exod says, Your idea of a gay furry VTuber has already been done. Goes by the name Taiga. Probably one of the more based VTubers. Also, be a Pinocchio VTuber. Already am. And then Cold Fade 2A wannabe Hunan Muhammad says, gun virus sounds bad. Yes. Yes, the gun virus. It's actually, coronavirus is way worse. Think about that, by the way. For all that they whine about guns, right? If we take the government's corona numbers, guns make up barely over 1% of corona deaths per year. Gun homicides. You don't get to count suicides as gun violence, in my opinion. In my opinion, I don't think suicides and accidents are the same as gun violence. Like, to me. Okay, here we go. Chuck Schumer, Democrat Chuck Schumer. I mean, I'm shocked to see his name on something that might be a good idea. But he said he's proposing federal legislation to decriminalize marijuana. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer proposed legislation to legalize marijuana at the federal level. Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act would remove marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act and introduce regulations to tax cannabis products. It would also expunge federal records of nonviolent cannabis offenders. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer proposed legislation Wednesday to legalize marijuana at the federal level, a move aimed at easing restrictive drug policies that have disproportionately impacted communities of color and the poor. And remember that was the purpose. I mean, that was the purpose of marijuana regulation. It wasn't intended to target African Americans. It was intended to target Mexicans. That's who they were going after with adding marijuana to the Controlled Substances Act. It was an act to target Mexicans. I don't know what else to say. That's what it was. The Cannabis Administration Opportunity Act would remove it from the Controlled Substances Act and introduce regulations to tax it. The proposal would expunge federal records. Those were all the bullet points. Quote, "This is monumental. At long last, we are taking steps in the Senate to right the wrongs of failed war on drugs." That's Chuck Schumer there. He said during a press conference at the Capitol, he unveiled the draft along with Senate Finance Committee Ron Wyden and Senator Cory Booker. Now, the plan would also create an opportunity trust fund from new cannabis tax revenue in order to invest in programs for communities most affected by the failed war on drugs, according to the draft of the bill. Well, good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. The plan to decriminalize marijuana, see, they keep saying this, but I don't think they actually mean it, will likely face a contentious battle in the Senate, and it's generally opposed by Republicans and some moderate Democrats and has not received an endorsement from Joe Biden. Schumer will require 60 votes, including at least 10 GOP votes, to pass it through the Senate. Look, legalize weed. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Legalize weed. The fact that Republican congressmen are still holding on to not legalizing weed is just insane. Like, I don't know how else to say it. If you're okay with alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, sugar, how on earth are we still opposed to pot? Like, at this point, we've got to figure this out. We've got to figure this out. This is destroying families. It's destroying lives more than the drug would destroy families and destroy lives. This has created that gun problem we're talking about is fueled. Well, now it's fueled by other things, but it started off being fueled by weed. Weed brought cocaine to the United States. When they talk about weed being a gateway drug, it's not the user, it's the dealer that it's the gateway for. Be careful what I wish for. No, I'm 100% behind the legalization of marijuana. It doesn't make sense to be restricted. It doesn't. Certainly not as a Class A controlled substance. It doesn't even meet the federal definition that it's under. But that's where I am on this issue. It's where I've been for a long time, man. I'm tired of seeing people go to jail. I'm tired of having their rights stripped away. Look, yeah, oh, sorry, you can't own guns because you smoked weed once. Like, wait, what? What? You can't vote because you had some weed on you when a cop pulled you over. Wait, what? What are we talking about here? Oregon and Colorado did not need weed to bring what's going on in Oregon and Colorado. Like, if we're gonna say, you know what, Oregon they were all super right wing over there until legalized weed, and then bam, suddenly overnight Antifa. No, like Portland is still Portland. That's not weed doing that to Portland. That's the people. Yeah, there are certainly, you know, concerns about marijuana use. Absolutely. Would I want my kids using weed? No, not at all. Do I use weed? No. Why? We should obviously be concerned with these things. These are parenting issues. These are life choice issues. And guess what? People are still using it. Legalization is not going to suddenly make everybody use weed. It's just going to make it not a crime. They're already using it. Razor would disagree about Colorado. Razor can disagree about a lot of things. That's fine. I like the guy. But anyway, that's my position on weed. It should be fairly obvious. I don't do it. I would rather drink a couple glasses of whiskey than get high. Not my thing. All right. Not my favorite thing to do. I don't really like it. But a lot of people use it for other purposes than just getting high. A lot of people use it for semi-medicinal reasons, headache relief, anxiety relief, stuff like that. And I don't see how weed is more dangerous than Tylenol or aspirin or ibuprofen. If you take ibuprofen without eating enough, your stomach lining erodes. If you take Tylenol with other things, your liver gets damaged. If you take aspirin a whole lot, you just die. Like there's a lot of uses for weed that are included in other readily available over-the-counter drugs. I would rather people smoke weed to help them sleep than take NyQuil to help them sleep and to get addicted to sort of or fucking Ambien or something like that. That's my opinion. You guys are free to disagree. And if you do, why don't you tell me in the comments of this video? Because we are wrapping it up here. ASO says, will you consider getting a mold of your nose and sell nose bobbleheads? That's funny. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know about the production of all that stuff, what that type of stuff costs, but I think I know people who do. So maybe. But all right, guys. That's the show for tonight. If you're on the Discord, I'll see you for Live Chat Wednesday in just a minute. I hope you guys enjoyed this show for the day. We'll still have a live stream tonight at the normal time, 11 p.m. Central, and I'll catch you guys then. Have a good day. Peace. No, where's the audio? Where's the audio? Hold on. It's coming. Omar coming.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitter and Erlang. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, more a love rug. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all planet folks from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for